Welcome to Focus on the Candidates. Today is I'm interviewing Geoff Young from Kentucky. And Geoff has been in politics a long time, and he has a number of interesting stories. So, Geoff, tell us about the stories in which they tried to eliminate you from the political scene.
All right. Um, let's see. I live in Lexington, Kentucky. I worked for 15 years in Frankfurt, the capital, for the State Energy and Environment Cabinet. And I retired and became kind of a full-time anti-war, pro-environment activist. I
Mm-hmm.
never thought I would run for office until about the year um, 2011.
Okay.
Um, so I was a member of the Kentucky Green Party at that time. And I decided to run for the Kentucky House of Representatives in Frankfurt
Mm-hmm.
against the incumbent Republican in my district in Lexington. Uh, and I didn't win, but I learned a lot about how to run an election, how to do it, what's going to be required, what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in 2013, I decided to run for the U.S. House of Representatives from Kentucky's sixth congressional district, which includes Lexington, Fayette County, and about 18 other counties surrounding Lexington. Kentucky has 120 counties, more than any other state. And it's kind of ridiculous how many there are, but
Well,
that's another story. Um, so I ran as a Democrat.
okay.
Because the tiny Green Party in Kentucky didn't like my aggressive style of campaigning, didn't like the way I sounded, and on my website, and thought, I should be talking about solar energy and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but not attacking anybody. So that just isn't my style.
Now,
And
did that come from the Greens in your area or nationally?
the Kentucky Greens.
Okay.
It was a tiny party. It has never grown. So
Okay.
right now it still exists in Kentucky, but they don't do anything. They just can't get it together.
Do they
So
run candidates still?
no, no, not anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, all right. So that was 20. Let's see. I was up to 2014 when I was running as a Democrat in the primary against incumbent Andy Barr, Republican.
Hmm.
Um, and I just ran a campaign and tried to get the nomination, but I was a complete unknown. My Democratic rival in 2014 was also an unknown, but she had the support of the local party and the Kentucky Democratic Party
Hmm.
statewide. So she won the nomination. But after she won it, and she lost in the general election to the incumbent Republican.
Hmm.
I thought about what had gone on, and I gradually realized. Actually, it took me till 2015 to realize that the Democratic Party had rigged the 2014 primary against me.
How
Uh,
did they
it,
do that?
well, they didn't allow me to debate. My opponent didn't want to debate. I was talking about foreign policy,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't want to. She didn't. She thought she was the front runner and spent all her time raising money and raised, eventually something like $800,000
Oh
in
my
the,
goodness.
in 2020. I'm sorry, in 2012,
Okay.
and I raised almost nothing. I spent my own money on a flyer and stuff like that. But I realized that the Fayette County and the party gave her all kinds of in-kind resources during the primary season
Mm-hmm.
in 2014. And that's illegal, both according to the Democratic Party bylaws and according to Kentucky state law. The Kentucky Constitution says all elections shall be free and equal. And the Kentucky Party bylaws used to say that the party itself shall not favor one Democrat over another in any primary.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind as my story goes on.
Okay.
Uh, so I figured that they rigged it. But anyway, I was on to running for governor in 2015. We have odd year governor elections
Okay.
in Kentucky. Some other states do, but it's kind of unusual. And I was running for governor uh, as a Democrat. And I'm trying to remember how many other Democrats were running 2015. Um, I think only two stayed in the race.
Okay.
The favorite, Jack Conway, and myself. So there were only two. And in 2015, the entire Democratic Party in Kentucky rigged it, obviously. They were blatant about it.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Conway refused to debate me ever. Um, Whenever I was talking to some group, like the Chamber of Commerce in one county in Kentucky, he was somewhere else. He was always at a different event. He spent all his time raising vast amounts of money, and I couldn't raise any. And so
But
there's
Jeff, would
yeah.
you say that not allowing you to debate, would you classify that as rigging an election?
It's one method. It's one way to rig it.
Okay.
Uh, the the main way is by devoting party resources during the primary season. So the primary usually runs in Kentucky from May or maybe early June till, I'm sorry, from January or
Mm-hmm.
December of the year before to May or early June when the primary is. That's the primary season. And uh, so the main way they rig it is by devoting the entire resources of the party. They got the national DNC to support Conway uh, and refusing to debate. Those are the two main methods
Okay.
that every party that wants to rig their primary uses.
Okay.
And so Kentucky is not unusual at all. Those tactics are universal. And they go to the Republican side also. They do it in exactly the same way. So in-kind resources are supposed to be reported in a state race like the governor. They're supposed to be reported to the Kentucky Registry of Election Finance, but they never do it. They just use these vast resources of all the county parties and the state party, uh, and they don't report any of it. So they're violating the law every time.
Mhm.
Uh, and so after I lost the primary for governor in 2015, I sued them. for election fraud.
Mhm.
Um, and they didn't like that at all. Uh, Nobody likes being sued.
Mhm.
Uh, and there is a law in Kentucky that says it's the ballot challenge law. And it says that in any year, if uh, you can sue your opponent or you can sue any candidate that you can vote for. So that's in this case, it would be any candidate um, running for governor, but whatever. So the people who can file ballot challenges, there's very broad range, very liberal, lenient restrictions on, hardly any restrictions on who can file a ballot challenge. So I filed one against Conway. I think it was, yeah, it was a little before the primary when I realized that they had rigged it. And it went to the circuit court in Frankfurt. And that judge simply disobeyed the law. Conway and his lawyers filed a motion to dismiss my ballot challenge. And the judge immediately granted it. So that's illegal, in my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, but in my opinion, the ballot challenge law uh, says when you read it as a whole, which is the way that you're supposed to read all statutes, when you read the statute as a whole, it says or implies that all ballot challenges must be decided on their merits. And when a judge grants a motion to dismiss uh, for, quote, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, that judge is saying that the merits are irrelevant. This case will not be decided before the merits are reached. No evidence will be accepted by the court. And so when I filed for, oh, and the judge said, you can't use this law for something like election fraud, like you're trying to do. You have to use it for things like they've been used in the past. So the law has been used in cases where a a candidate doesn't have enough signatures on their filing papers, or one of the signatures is not a member of their party. You know, when the candidate makes some trivial paperwork mistake, then you can use the ballot challenge statute.
Mhm.
And this judge said you can't use it for any other reason, such as the one you said, Mr. Young. You can't
Mhm.
do that. So he threw it out without deciding it on the merits. Okay. So I appealed that to the Kentucky Court of Appeals. And they very quickly upheld that circuit judge's opinion and order. I appealed to the Kentucky Supreme Court. They refused to review it. So that was the end of the line for me. I decided not to try to appeal to the United States Supreme Court because I didn't know all that much about the law. I was pretty inexperienced in 2015. So they rigged my first campaign for the US House. I'm sorry, for governor,
Mhm.
2015. 2016, I ran for the US House again as a Democrat. They rigged it more blatantly that year. I sued him again, different
In what
court,
way did they rig it this time?
exactly the same way, by
Okay.
refusing to debate, by diverting tremendous resources to the three favored establishment Democrats and
Okay.
none to the three unknowns.
Okay.
And again, it was illegal. My case was even stronger in 2016 than than my first one. I think I appealed that one all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. I submitted a petition for certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court. They accept very few petitions like that. They take very few cases. Um, and so they just sent back, a few months later, a one sentence order saying petition denied. That's not unusual at all. 2017, no elections. 2018, I ran for the U.S. House again uh, as a Democrat. And I'm thinking there were uh, four, six Democrats running again. Anyway, there were a bunch of Democrats running 2018. I'm sorry, Amy McGrath. I don't know if you heard of her, but she had recently moved to Kentucky from California, a Democrat, and ran for the U.S. House and spent millions of dollars, unbelievable amounts of money. She had, myself as an opponent and some other, she had the former mayor of Lexington. She had some very strong opponents. But she outspent everybody, won the primary just by spending money, and lost to Andy Barr, the Republican, again in the general election. But it was close. She came closer by spending, like, I think it was $9 million
Oh my God.
on that U.S. House campaign. Yeah, it's
Wow.
unbelievable. She was a favorite of the entire DNC nationwide. She was getting contributions from every state. Um,
And you got nothing.
no, yeah, I got in 2018. I hardly raised any money because I was pretty sure I wasn't going to
Okay.
win. But I did get into a debate on KET, Kentucky Educational Television, in
Uh-huh.
2018, and that was interesting. There were three honest candidates and three crooks. And I said that during the debate. And yeah, I said crooked Amy, crooked Jim
Oh my
Gray,
goodness.
crooked, on TV. And they really didn't like that. But anyway, after she had won, I sued her again and, lost. My case was thrown out. I think that 2018 was the year I first started getting fined by the judges for filing so-called frivolous lawsuits.
Mm.
Um, and they weren't frivolous. There's nothing frivolous about them. I would put in my initial complaint all of the rigging incidents going back to 2014. So in 2018, I had like 100-page complaint, and that was thrown out by the circuit court judge in Kentucky um, without ever reaching the merits. Uh, and so I consider that the worst thing any judge can do is to throw out a valid, meritorious complaint um, before discovery. So at the very initial phase of the lawsuit, the motion to dismiss phase, if a judge throws that out, the judge is making justice on the merits impossible to obtain. And they all do it. I'm amazed by how many judges violate the civil rules, which say that judges are supposed to be very lenient and very unwilling to dismiss a case before discovery. But they all do it in my experience. And it doesn't matter how strong the case is. Uh, they just grant everybody's motion to dismiss. And so I think that's a real problem nationwide, not just Kentucky.
Mhm.
Kentucky is not unique in having judges who are totally corrupt and who throw out cases, valid complaints, before even the discovery phase, where both sides get to ask each other questions, right?
Mhm.
Um, all right, so no election. Oh, yeah, 2019 was governor again. They rigged it again. And that time, KET joined in on the rigging.
Who's this?
Kentucky Educational Television.
Okay,
They
really?
they hadn't been rigging elections against me, primaries against me until 2019. That was the first year they did it. And the way they did it was by saying, we're not going to have anybody on our debate stage who hasn't raised or spent at least, I think in 2019 it was $100,000
Okay.
for the governor's race, any statewide race that year. And that was a wealth requirement. They were requiring all candidates who wanted to appear on their show uh, to raise vast amounts of money.
Mhm.
And I think that's unconstitutional and illegal. And KET is a state-run media company. It's a public broadcasting corporation. So when KET rigs a primary illegally, that's the state. And you can sue the state when they violate the law. So I did. I sued KET in addition to all these Democrats from 2014, 2015, 2016. Uh, and that case was thrown out, 2019. I don't know. One of these cases was a federal case. I think it was 2016. That was a federal case.
Okay.
And that went to a corrupt judge in Frankfurt named Gregory Van Tatenhove. He threw it out. 2019, also thrown out. I think it was state judges who did that. 2020, I gave up on the Democrats. I switched parties in 2019, the year before, and ran as a Republican against Andy Barr, who was still the incumbent. Uh, and they rigged it in exactly the same way, and KET helped them rig it. Uh, so that was 2020. I sued them all again. 2021, no elections. 2022, I went back to the Democrats because the Republicans are just as corrupt. So I went back to the Democrats. And the Democrats in 2022 really couldn't find anybody who wanted to run against me, anybody famous or rich. So I was running against a completely unknown high school science teacher, Democrat. Uh, and the whole party rigged it in favor of him. But I managed to win the primary in 2022.
Mhm.
First primary, only primary I've ever won in my life.
Mhm.
And and the entire Democratic Party supported a write-in
Oh
instead, and
no.
the entire party opposed me in the general election. So of course Andy Barr won it again. The entire party turned against their own candidate. The governor, Andy Bashir, at that time, went on TV and he was asked by a reporter right after I won the primary, well, are you going to support Geoff Young in the general election in Kentucky's sixth congressional district? And the governor said, no. Geoff
He
Young,
outright said no.
he said no to the reporter.
Wow.
Um, Geoff Young has some problems. and he needs to address those problems. And I'm not going to be endorsing him.
Did he articulate what the problems were?
No, he implied that I had some kind of mental illness.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, oh, there was an event one time where Mr. Young was out front of the building and said some very upsetting things to me. And I had my 12-year-old son with me, and I didn't want him to hear that kind of thing until, a few years later when he was older. That was
Mm,
his reasoning for
wow.
not supporting the nominee.
Mhm.
And what I said was, here comes one of the criminals.
Wow.
It was a Democratic Party, state party meeting, and I was not allowed to attend it,
Uh-huh.
which is another way to rig a primary, right? By hearing from the favored candidates and not hearing from the one you don't like
Right.
because of their views and their position on issues. So that's obvious election rigging. There's just no doubt about it.
And so, in addition to these elections being rigged against you, you
Uh-huh.
were also fined. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, the judges started penalizing me under Civil Rule 11, which says that if you file a frivolous lawsuit or if you're filing documents for some improper purpose, you have to pay the legal fees of your opponents. And I never filed an improper document in any court. I don't do that. I don't believe in lying to judges, but apparently every civil defense attorney in Kentucky has no problem lying to judges about the facts and the law, and they never get penalized. But here I am, a non-attorney, making extremely valid legal arguments, dozens of them in every case, and being fined by corrupt judges. Um, so, yeah, I've over the years I've had to pay over $100,000 in fines to enemy lawyers because,
Okay, Jeff, let me stop you right there and ask
uh,
you this question.
uh-huh,
If you did not pay those fines or
yeah,
would not pay those fines,
yeah.
what would happen to you?
The court would allow them to raid my bank accounts. The court would require me to report all my assets, and they would be allowed to raid them in order to reach the dollar amount of the penalties. Sanctions, they're called sanctions.
Okay.
So yeah, I would have been they would have been taken from me. So instead of having to go through all that, I just paid them over the years.
$100,000 is a lot of money.
I know, it's ridiculous. So it would be like 25,000 in one lawsuit, 30,000 for another, 25 for another. And it wasn't just the circuit courts that were doing it. It was the Court of Appeals that was endorsing these fines and going along with them for sanctions, and the Kentucky Supreme Court, which was upholding all of these sanctions that had been granted by the lower courts. So it was the entire judicial branch of Kentucky that was sanctioning me. And they added things to that. They said in a couple of these cases, the Supreme Court of Kentucky said Mr. Young may not file any more election voting related lawsuits without permission of the court in advance. And that's obviously unconstitutional. You can't slam the doors of the courthouse against somebody who calls you corrupt. That's freedom of speech.
So,
I'm free to call any judge corrupt if I
right.
think they are, and they say no, you can't even file a lawsuit anymore without permission.
So, Jeff, after these fines were levied against you,
Mm.
did you talk to any candidates in any other state? And did they have similar stories to tell?
I'm not aware of candidates. I'm aware of, some candidates in other states who whose primaries were rigged against them. I mean, that's very common. That
Uh-huh.
happens everywhere. If they're outsiders, if they're unknowns, if they're radicals, if they differ from the party line, doesn't matter Republican or Democrat, they get they get cheated, they
Mm,
get primaries rigged against them. But I've never known any others uh, who sued their party.
okay.
Um, I don't know, maybe it's happened, but I'm unaware of it.
Okay. Okay.
I've just pushed it farther in Kentucky than anybody else I know of.
Well, that's good. That's great.
Yeah,
You set the example for other lesser known candidates to do the same thing.
right. But so far, I can't claim I haven't won any of these cases. But I've got
Okay.
three. I've got three active cases now. Two of them are election related, and one of them is related to Forex, a foreign exchange trading company, which I think defrauded me. Securities fraud in 2022. But that's a different story. But the two ongoing lawsuits about elections and voting are still active. One of
Uh-huh.
them, I submitted a petition to certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court month or two ago. That and there's some funny business there. They haven't told me yet whether it was filed and what the case number is. I call them every couple days, like 3 times a week. I call the U.S. Supreme Court and say, "Okay, what have you filed my case? What's the case number?" And they don't call me back.
Really?
So there's something very suspicious at the U.S. Supreme Court at the moment. And the
So,
other one is about at the Sixth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals in Cincinnati. It's one of these huge conspiracy lawsuits against the Democrats, the Republicans, and KET. And that's in appeal
oh,
in our circuit, federal circuit court.
okay. So you anticipate at some point some kind of a judgment coming down, whether for or against you, correct?
Um, I anticipate that the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals will enter an order someday.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know what they'll say, whether it'll be in my favor or against me. But the judge in my current open case is the same corrupt federal judge who screwed me over in 2015. So I appealed it to the Sixth Circuit in 2016 by then, and to the U.S. Supreme Court and didn't get anywhere. Uh, and in the other one, um, let me think, what's the other one? That's sitting at the U.S. Supreme Court now. That was a ballot challenge case, and I'm just trying to get them to file the thing.
Now,
I
did you ever try to have a lawyer represent you?
I asked a few lawyers
Uh-huh.
back in the uh, early days, and none of them agreed to to
What
take my
was their
case.
rationale?
They just thought I had no chance.
Wow. Well, so,
And I did hire a lawyer once on a trespassing case in
uh-huh,
Lexington. Um, uh, and he took the case and I paid him $3,000 and he didn't do a good job. I think he threw it.
wow, wow.
So I'm through with hiring lawyers.
Ye-
I'm not going to hire a lawyer ever
Right.
unless it's a criminal defense lawyer for if I get arrested for saying something bad about Israel, I might hire a lawyer.
Oh,
I
boy.
probably won't. I don't think I will hire a lawyer ever again.
So can you do me a favor, Jeff?
Yeah.
I mean, the issues that you brought up are really interesting. If you get a determination, would you be willing to come back and focus on
Oh,
the candidates to talk?
obviously. Of course I would.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll be on every show I can get on.
great, great. And as far as the lawsuits, I mean, as far as the fines, as you were talking about them, what would be interesting is if you set up a GoFundMe page to get back at them, to get your resources back. Did you ever think of that?
No, no, I didn't. Instead, I worked with some friends in 2024 last year to start a new party
Okay.
in Kentucky, a third party or
Okay.
fourth one or fifth one, whatever number party it is, non-Democrat, non-Republican.
Okay.
And we
So,
can talk about that
right,
maybe some other
right,
time.
right. So, Jeff, if somebody wants to contact you or maybe represent you at some point,
Mm.
in some way, how could they reach you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Jeffrey M. Young, Geoffrey, middle initial M, Young, and on Twitter, Jeffrey M. Young. You can find me there. You can also find on Facebook the new party. It's called the Kentucky Party. Um, has a Facebook group,
Okay.
and you just search on the Kentucky Party or Kentucky Party, and you'll find it on Facebook. You can reach me that way.
Okay, great. Okay, Jeff.
Or you can email, I'll give out my email address.
Sure, go ahead.
It's energetic22 at
Okay.
yahoo.com.
Can you spell that,
ENERGETIC number two at yahoo.com.
Jeff? It's been enlightening talking to you, and I look forward to talking with you again. Thanks a lot, Jeff, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a wonderful day.